Oftentimes when students think of prehistoric art, they think of cave paintings. Well, here we are. We're looking at cave paintings. This cave is called this cave is called Lascaux Cave, and the specific room in the cave we're looking at is called the Hall of Bulls. Now again, think about this in context. The name Lascaux is because it is a series of caverns found in the mountains near Lascaux, France. And then within the larger cave, there are several chambers, and the chambers are named after what we have found inside. And so archaeologists have referred to this one as the Hall of Bulls, because while it has layers and layers of animals, there are very dominant bulls in this scene, or in this room. I like to give you a little bit larger understanding of this space. So here we are looking at a map of the Lascaux Cave. This dotted line here is the mountain edge, and then it has been retrofitted over the years to create this larger opening, and this map is showing you the larger chamber of the Hall of Bulls, and then the cave goes off into various directions where archaeologists have found and or I should say discovered various paintings around and inside of different cracks and crevices. Here's another view of the Hall of Bulls. I like this view a lot because it allows you to understand the larger space in reference to a human being. Now, people used to be allowed to go into Lascaux caves, and it became a huge tourist attraction. It has been closed to the public because of the fast and rapid deterioration of the artworks, the paintings in the cave, because of the human activity within the caves. I'm not talking about like vandalism, but simply the fact of people walking through and the humidity of their breath. It caused an imbalance of the cave microorganisms, and we saw bacterial and mold growing over and deteriorating or destroying the ancient site. So it has been closed to the public. Fear not. If you ever get a chance to go to Lascaux, the caves are right next to a museum, and the museum has rebuilt a 2-scale version of the cave system. So you can walk into the museum and explore around the caves that have been accurately copied from the originals. In this picture here, you can see how the artworks are laid up above on the ceilings. So it's not a very easy space to reach, right? And then we have these giant electric lights that are illuminating the space. I emphasize this because, well, in terms of context, those wouldn't have been there. They didn't have electric bulbs. They certainly didn't have these floodlights that illuminated this entire space. Instead, what they would have been using were candles. And these candles would have been pockets of oil, maybe animal fat, with some kind of a fiber that would have been burning. And these candles, well, have you ever lit just one candle in a dark room? It's really disappointing, right? They're not very bright. So using just a small flame, a spitting oil flame, that would be bouncing and dancing around. That's how these would have been viewed. So I need you to understand how these would have been viewed in their original context. Sweeping your candle up and around the cave, you would have caught the dancing shadows of the bulbous forms. It would have almost seemed as if the flickering light made these images flicker or dance, wouldn't it? Now, in terms of the reason why these are here, we have to make assumptions based on the archaeological evidence at hand. I like to ask students in class, what do you think is the reason why these were made? And then I'll look around, and then somebody will say, hunting. The students will say, hunting, hunting. people are trying to paint the pictures of the animals that they hunt? Great question, or great assumption, and archaeologists have made the same kind of idea. However, recent scholarship and understanding of the exterior sites around Lascaux from the Paleolithic period show that many of these larger creatures, horses and bulls, humans didn't hunt at this time. How do they know that? Well, people have left their garbage. The Paleolithic people left bones and hides and tools behind. And based on the archaeological garbage, we know that they weren't eating or hunting these creatures. So it's not a hunt. Some students will say, maybe it's just decoration. Maybe this is the inside of their house. Great, but this is not a house. In fact, this cave and other caves from around this time show that people were not living inside of these caves. How do we know? Again, people are messy. We leave stuff all around, right? The evidence on the floor shows very little human activity, meaning this wasn't some kind of like a living room and some kind of entertainment for them. They didn't sleep in this space. They didn't eat in this space. There weren't a lot of people in this space. Perhaps this was something more sacred of a space? Based on the information that we have gathered and the lack of information, what we assume these to be, we'll come back to this one. What we assume these creatures to be, specifically in the Hall of Bulls, look at that, these beautiful figures here. We see horses, we see antelope, we see cows. Oh, another crazy thing about these. Some of these animals that have been found or identified in the caves themselves, they are extinct creatures that no longer are alive on the European continent, or they were never alive on the European continent to begin with. They're from the farther Near East or the steppes of Asia, in the Middle Asian continent. So what are they doing here in the middle of French caves? Some archaeologists have thought perhaps these are ways of conveying messages between people. Maybe it's communication. Maybe it's, I don't know, like, I know you're not on Facebook, but maybe it's like a Facebook wall. Maybe it's a way of saying, like, this is what I do, this is what I've seen, this is where I come from. And archaeological evidence has shown that these were created over a 2,000-year period of time. What do you mean, Miss Cortez? 2,000 year? See the dates there I've put up there? 15,000 to 13,000 BCE. That's not to say ish, somewhere around this 2,000-year period. No, that's to tell you that the oldest paintings in this cave system are from the 15,000 BCE, and the youngest are from the 13,000 BCE. That means that for over 2,000 years, humans were coming in and adding to this. This wasn't some one artist with one idea who had this vision and was like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. No, instead, this is the build-up, layering of people for 2,000 years. And when I say layering, that's how the archaeologists have been able to date this, because some of the paint has been covered by 2,000 layers of grit, of grime, of mineral deposits before the next layer of paint. So rock was forming on top of paint before somebody came in and painted in the 13,000 BCE. Isn't that insane? I think it's just fantastic. So we have to think of this as a larger understanding or expression of people, rather than one specific person or one specific tribe or one specific village. Okay. A term often used in cave painting and archaeological sites is sympathetic magic. This term, I'm reading the definition with you right now. The term commonly used in archaeology in relation to Paleolithic cave paintings, basis of divination, where the lines, shapes, patterns, and objects are believed to be magically connected to the world, the past, the present, and the future. And that's exactly what we're discussing when we look at these and we think of them as an expression of some kind of past, or maybe a story of what they have seen, or maybe to bring about a fruition of something. So when we look at these paintings, they have a larger sacred rather than, I don't know, graffiti effect to them. Going back to this image here. These are intentional. These paintings are difficult to reach. So we don't want to think of these as just some like punk cavemen coming in and being like, you know what, I'm going to draw this, blah, and then leaving. It requires the attention for materials. It requires the attention for placement. The fact that they're placed on the ceiling, not only is it more difficult to reach, therefore more intentional to paint, but does that have some sense of their importance? Think about it. Humans, we often say that we look up to somebody, we honor them. I look up to you, you're so amazing. We think of the powers of the gods and the goddesses around and above us. We think of the heavens, heaven above us. So we think of those who have power and majesty and greatness beyond us to be above us. Perhaps these are expressions of some kind of grandeur or power of these animals for these Paleolithic people. They're not on the ground. They're not stomped under our feet. They're not dirty or sullied by our movements. They almost watch over us. Even look at this one specific rendering here. Now here's another definition. Composite view. Composite view, a representation in which part of a figure is shown in profile and another of the same figure is shown frontally. Here we see a cow, and this cow has two very long horns. And we see this outline of the cow. Okay, so we got this outline, and we can see two front feet, two back feet, we got a rump, and then we have a head, a snout, and then two horns. Now you might be thinking, I don't understand composite view. How are we looking at it in this cow? Well, we see the sides of the cow because of the side view. We get this very big, massive, muscular cow. However, we also see two horns, which help us understand this to be a cow. What the artist has done brilliantly is given us two viewpoints to give us a more efficient way of understanding the image. We understand it's a cow because of its shape. And so the artist has shown us the large expanse of that muscular body. However, two horns on the head. If the cow was to face directly sideways, how many horns would you see? One. So what is that? Some kind of a unicorn thing? No. So instead, the artist turns the horns. The artist gives you the two defining elements that make this a cow. So it turns the horns. It's a composite view. It's a view of the side and the front together. It's an extremely efficient, very brilliant way of helping us understand an artwork or an image or an animal, in this case a cow. So what we have here is a composite view. Let's look at this a little bit more. This cow, the way that the artist, whoever he or she was, what did they think of this cow? Is this cow puny? Pathetic? A loser? No. Now if we were in class together, I would ask you, and then you would say things like strong, graceful. Look at those adorable little beep, 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 beep. Those little feet. Aren't they cute? Their strength, the sharpness of those horns. It's intense. So just using line, the artist is able to express a greater power and prestige of this cow. And in consideration of how many and where they are located, we can then come back to our understanding of some kind of sympathetic magic.